36. And if you could just re-explain how you get the emissivity of how you change the emissivity of the materials.
Which slide?
I think it's around the 36.
36.
Yes, I'm not sure exactly, but I think then heat was not the right one, but I can easily remember. Okay, that one. Okay, this one. No, sorry, it's a 31.
31. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. This do you mean this one? Okay. Actually, this is the infrared imaging of a real person, and then we only consider this frame, and then the temperature, the signal of temperature can be extracted. So after that, we use this plate, and there are many more than 1,000 holes. Then we insert the holes with different materials. The materials are composed of two components. One is one has a high thermal conductivity, and the other has a low thermal conductivity. And then we change the concentration of two materials, and then in order to obtain 10 different kinds of thermal conductivities, there as depicted by this figure, and then we obtain our sample like this one. This is the complete sample. So that is, in a word, we just use the mixture of two different components to design and fabricate different kinds of thermal conductivities. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. But just to be clear, in this left picture where you have the thermal, it's an image taken by thermal camera.
Yes, exactly.
And on the right side, it's basically it's a very conducting structure that you would place in front of the guy.
Yes. No, this is our summary. This is the summary. So we just use our camera to detect the temperature distribution of this surface. So in our camera, we obtain this image. Right.
Okay. I get it. Okay, now I thought that you were changing the emissivity of the guy at the end.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. Because the temperature is constant below the sample. So due to different thermal conductivity distribution, we can change the temperature distribution on the surface. So and then we obtain different temperature signature like this one.
Okay. Yes. Okay. I get it. Thanks.
Thank you.
So we got another question, and so I don't know, Sebastian, you want to read it, or I think Sean, if you have a microphone, you can ask directly. You don't have to write the question.
Yep.
How to raise the hand? Okay. Well, just unmute your microphone. Just click on the microphone. It's unmuted, and it's muted. You just click unmute.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, but just maybe speak a bit louder.
Okay. I'm using cell phone.
If you have questions, you can also write down by using the chat window, so that I can understand more clearly. Anyway, it's up to you.
Okay. Thanks, Professor Huang. Can you hear me now?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, it's the same question as Mame Kadeka said in the page 31. So
page
here,
31.
in the simulation, the detected emissive power by the thermal camera is dependent on both the surface emissivity and the surface temperature. Here, you are changing the surface temperature, that's not the surface emissivity. Is that?
Actually, I did not hear very clearly. The background noise is very big. Can you say your question again? Sorry.
Okay, sorry. You are achieving the thermal imitation in your sample. So as long as I know the detected emissive power by the thermal camera, it depends on both the surface emissivity and the surface temperature. So here you get the misleading infrared detection by changing the surface temperature field. Yes, you are not changing the surface emissivity. Is that true?
Yes. We only change the thermal conductivity. We do not change the thermal emittivity.
Okay. I got it. Okay.
Thank you.
Did you
But sorry, I did not catch your question very clearly due to the noise. Sorry.
Okay. Okay. That's it.
And anyway, for this summer, we only the only thing we only change thermal conductivity. We do not consider other factors such as thermal convection and thermal radiation. We do not take into account the other factors. Only thermal conductivity, and then we only we use our camera to measure the temperature distribution on the surface only. Nothing else. Thank you.
Okay.
So, anyone else wants to ask a question to Professor Wan? I've got a question actually. It's regarding negative refraction versus thermal flux. So when you have this doubly negative parameter in the heat conduction equation, do you reverse the direction of diffusion? What happens really? Because I've read these papers, but I'm not sure I understand. So essentially, you have simultaneously the heat conduction and the heat capacity, which is negative. What happens?
Sorry, I did not understand very clearly.
So essentially, you've shown some lensing.
Which slide?
I don't know. It's regarding lensing. You have some work on thermal crystals.
Oh, okay.
Thermal crystals.
Yeah, moment. Thermal crystals. Okay. This one.
Yeah, exactly. So regarding panel C, so for the lensing, so I'm a bit confused. So you've got an image on one side. How does it work? So the lensing here.
So what's your question?
Yeah, essentially you have a crystal, you have
Yes.
a source on one side, and you claim that you have an image on the other side.
This one.
Panel C. In application, Mohamed. Okay, I'm just referring to the Veselago lens.
Okay.
So you have something which is similar to the Veselago lens here, no? Never mind. Anyone else has a question?
Okay.
So, also for the thermal diode, okay, could you just explain a little bit thermal crystals, how you understand this works? Can you just explain, tell us how, you know, this works? I'm not sure I understand.
Okay, I think actually to me, I think this is not new enough. From according to this paper,
Yes.
we designed thin film. The film is about about 100 micrometers, and then this film is distributed with many air cylinders. The diameter is about 20 nanometers. So he obtained the similar crystal like this one. This is the whole thing. But in his paper, we find he has used some special techniques to control the wavelengths of phonons, such as he used nanostructured alloy, and then he can change the wavelength of phonons. As a result, he can calculate the elastic equation in order to obtain this dispersion relation. So, and then we can reproduce the similar phenomenon of the photonic structure. So this is my understanding. I'm not sure if it is exactly what are you looking for? Or do you have other comments?
Yeah, in fact, I understand that this dispersion diagram is for elasticity. So he considers very high frequency phonons, but I have still some difficulties to link it to thermal radiation because, of course, here it's really still a propagation phenomenon that this diagram shows. It's not a diffusive system. So the link is not clear to me.
But in this crystal, we can use the nanostructured system to control macroscopic heat transfer. So this is we can understand it's based on wave phenomenon rather than diffusion phenomenon. But the only point is we can use this crystal system to control macroscopic heat transfer. This is my point.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I have read this Fitzgerald letter paper of Moldovan in 2013, but I will read the paper which refers to panel C in application. I'm very interested by this heat imaging lens. It's crystal. I was not aware of this work. Okay, that's very interesting. And regarding also your work on transformational conduction, convection cloaks, you also add radiation, you say, and so you have another equation. How does it work? How do you implement the radiative term?
You mean conduction, convection, radiation? You mean this? Okay. Actually, in our we first do theoretical analysis. We use the normal conduction equation. We use the normal diffusion convection equation, and then considering radiation. But in this paper, we just use a different system and design a bit surface and then in our design we just use conduction equation and then consider the effect of convection, and then we consider the effect of radiation in our theory. So to me, such a procedure is very normal. And as a result, we designed many digital patterns. That is, our meta service can be constructed by using different pixels. Each pixel is a cubic. It is designed according to our theory. As a result, we can change the pattern of our unit series. So we can obtain different infrared imaging. So I think this is what I want to say. And also importantly, so far, to me, it's very important. It's very important. Also, it's very difficult to combine conduction convection radiation very well. So in our previous work, like this one, for thermal radiation model, we used Rosner approximation method. That is, we consider the transfer of photon as diffusion. It has a short mean-free path. So for such area, we can develop the transformation method. And also for this area, actually we can also use the transformation method if and only if we use a simplified model for thermal radiation. Or else, so far we cannot develop transformation method for conduction convection radiation. So anyway, for this system, it is still a challenge for us. Thank you.
Okay, and we have also some questions, I think, regarding possible links with Fresnel drag in time-modulated electromagnetic metamaterials. So are you aware of some work on time-modulated thermocrystals?
Yes, actually, in 2 years ago, a professor in Spain, he has published a paper in PIR. They used time-modulated structure, metamaterial-based structure, and they reveal the non-reciprocal phenomenon. That is, they can break the, they obtain symmetry, they obtain different, they obtain similar rectification. I think that to include time modulation in this area, in thermal material, it is very important for us to reveal different phenomena. Actually, in my group, we also considered this effect. Previously, all the design, no matter for thermal clockers, computer or rotator, actually the essential point is to design thermal connectivities with different spatial distribution. So I think the next point is to design thermal connectivities with different temporal distribution in order to obtain different normal thermal phenomena. So I think this can be done in next few years, and also many good results can be expected. So thank you.
I've got my own question. It looks like there aren't many works on the spherical thermal cloak. Okay, there is one paper which has been published on this, but I can't see many papers, many papers on three-dimensional thermal cloaks. I can't see any big difficulties there. Can you comment on that? Is it just a fabrication difficulty? Because theoretically it's the same, no?
You mean thermal cloak?
Yes, thermal cloaks, but in 3 dimensions.
Yes.
Just a couple of papers. It's very sparse, the literature on.
I think actually the essential mechanism is almost exactly the same. for
Yeah.
2-dimensional thermal conductor and 3-dimensional thermal conductor.
Yeah.
But almost all the authors prefer to fabricate 2-dimensional thermal conductor. I think that the most important thing is it can be easily detected and the results can be clearly shown. Actually, if we use different, if we use 3-dimensional, like this one, 3-dimensional, no, this is also 2-dimensional. Actually, for this paper, they produced the first 3-dimensional thermal conductor. But to me, when they measure the temperature distribution, it's very, very difficult for them to obtain the desired results. So anyway, from physical point of view, no matter 2-dimensional or 3-dimensional thermal conductor, they share the same theoretical mechanism. And for fabrication, actually, 3-dimensional is much more difficult than 2-dimensional. So I think this is the reason why the authors always prefer to fabricate a 2-dimensional thermal conductor. Also, the other point is no matter 2-dimensional or 3-dimensional conductor, they have the same physical mechanism. So to me, it's okay. Any fabrication is okay, as long as we can reveal a new physical phenomenon. So this is my viewpoint. I'm not sure what is your opinion.
There is one point though. The type of singularity in 2D and 3D is a bit different, because in 2D, for the conductivity, you have one eigenvalue which goes to 0 and the other one to infinity when you approach the center of the clock, whereas in 3D, you have one eigenvalue which goes to 0 and the other two which remain constant for the transformed conductivity. So perhaps this also has some implications for the design. I think that it's interesting, this, well, you know, possibility to design a 3-dimensional clock. It's very strange that nobody really looked into it. Effectively, there is just one paper. I was aware of this FISREV letter in 2014, but I was not totally convinced.
Yes, exactly.
I'm not totally convinced, yeah.
Yes.
So, and also there is something very nice. I quite like the stuff when you have clocks which work both for the electric problem and the heat problem, but this only works in 2D. You cannot do this in 3D because the correspondence breaks down. You can only do this for a 2-dimensional clock, isn't it?
Hello, can I comment on this? Hello?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, hello. Let me introduce myself. This is Alvar Sanchez from Barcelona. Okay.
Okay.
So we work on magnetic clocks and magnetic concentrators and so on, which is a kind of similar thing to these thermal cases, because we both work in the static limit with the Laplace equation instead of wave equations. First of all, let me say congratulations to the organizers for such beautiful webinars, and also thanks Professor Juan for a very good review of this topic of thermal metamaterials. Okay. Once this is said, I think there is one way. I have a comment on what we were discussing, and then a very short question, if you allow me. Yeah, the comment is that there is one way to achieve 3D clocks, spherical clocks, for example, in the static limit, and we did this in our group by this bilayer strategy. In the previous slide, it was cited our work in Science, Gomori et al.
Which
yes, I mean in slide 14, I think. Well, the one you mentioned, the cloaks. Yeah.
What you mentioned, the cloak.
Yeah, and then I think by next, please. The previous one, maybe two previous. The previous one, well, anyway, it was. Okay. Yeah, sorry. Well, I cannot see now. Anyway, so the idea was to use a bilayer cloak like you have done for thermal. And with these ideas, one can make a cloak in 3D for exactly for homogeneous applied field and very good. Here, it is the last. The last paper here, yeah, this one in Science, yes.
This paper is very important, very for binary thermal clock. I think without this paper, this concept cannot be produced this year. So very important. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah. In that case, in our work in this paper in Science, it was for 2D, but in a further work, our ideas can be somehow made in 3D. So I think it would be good to explore this also in thermal. That was my comment. Okay, it works exactly for homogeneous applied field, and in a very good approximation for non-homogeneous one. We can discuss later, or
but this,
by email or something. I will be glad. Yeah.
Okay.
But that would work in a steady state state regime, isn't it?
Yes.
This doesn't apply to the transient regime.
No. It's in the steady state, but it's the same Laplace equation as the thermal case that we are dealing here with, I guess.
No, I agree, but as soon as you introduce some frequency spectral parameter, some time dependence, all this breaks down. So
sure, of course, yeah.
But
in the thermal case, we are also working in the static limit, right?
Yeah, but
I mean, it's diffusion equation. It's not wave equation, say.
Yeah, but what is interesting, there is one real challenge. It's to cloak object in the short time. So essentially, cloaking deteriorates at early times, and when you close to the steady state regime, it becomes less. So there is, it's perhaps just an academic game, but there is a real challenge to be able to cloak in the transient regime in 3D. I think it's not such an easy task.
Yeah, I agree. It's not so easy. One has to be very careful with the transients. I fully agree with this. Yeah.
But as I said, it's very interesting. Effectively, that this nice analogy with your work and all this.
Yes, and if you allow me just a very, very short question, because I think it's very interesting to extend all the ideas that Professor Juan explained so well in the nonlinear regime, right? In the magnetic case, one can do this because the magnetic materials are nonlinear, ferromagnetic and so on. But I wonder, you mentioned a little bit, but my question is, how difficult is for thermal material to introduce nonlinearity? That is, how difficult it is to have materials that change the thermal conductivity with the temperature. Is that easy in practice?
I think it's not easy. It's not easy, but we can use shape memory alone to design temperature dependence of thermal conductivity. That is, first we can use natural materials which always depend on temperature, more or less. Second, we can design artificial structures to obtain different thermal conductivity, such as by using shape memory and noise and some other phase changing materials. This is my point. I'm not sure if you are satisfied.
Yes. Thank you very much for Professor Juan. Thank you very much for a very nice talk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so anyone else wants to come forward with a question? It's a unique opportunity to, to ask questions to Professor Wang. So please come forward if you have any question. It's better if you actually talk yourself, not just use the chat box. So someone has some questions. So could you just unmute your microphone and ask your question to Professor Wang?
I think someone have some questions in the chat medium window.
Hi, can you hear me, Professor Huang?
Yes, I can hear.
Okay, thanks. Just now, just in this page, you are mentioning clocks I noticed that there are also some literatures on the elliptical bilayer thermal clocks. My question is, except for the regular shapes like the ball, like the spherical, cylinder, and the elliptical, is it possible to design the clocks in using the bilayer liturgy?
This one, actually for thermal clock, till now, different shapes can be used for thermal clock. It does not depend on the shape. Any arbitrary shapes can be used for thermal clock. But I'm not sure what's your detailed question.
Yeah, but some people are using the bilayer thermal clocks. I mean, using the bilayer method, is it possible to design thermal clocks in other shapes except for the circular and the elliptical one?
I think your this question is important. Actually, for binary thermal clock, the most important thing is they can use heat conduction equation to solve this equation exactly, and then they can obtain the distribution of thermal conductivity according to different geometrical size. So if we use different shape, such as if we use a non-regular shape, actually we cannot solve this equation directly. Analytically, we cannot solve it. So from this point of view, we cannot design binary thermal clock for non-regular shapes. But if we use different method, that is, we can use other different methods such as numerical simulations, and then we still can design binary thermal clock from point to point. As a result, we can obtain the whole phenomenon of thermal clock. So this is my answer. That is, if we start from heat conduction equation only, and we hope to solve it analytically, I think my answer to your question is no. But if we use different method, such as numerical simulations, we can design binary thermal clock for any shapes. So this is my answer. I'm not sure if you are satisfied. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks. I understand it. And can I ask my last question? I noticed that experimental demonstration of thermal clocking, and people are using various methods. Like this page, you are using the bilayer, and some they are like Han and Chiu and Mamehe Ito. They are using the translation method. Like yes, here you can see it. And my question is that they are only focusing on the thermal conductivities. I mean, in the short time, the transient thermal clock, in the short time, the clocking performance is also depends on the heat capacity, not only on the thermal conductivity. So
exactly.
I didn't see any experiments about the transient thermal clocking. So is that possible to design the thermal clocks using these methods to also consider the heat capacity so that you can get good performance in short times?
Of course, Professor Khalil is an expert for such non-steady state distribution. Actually, for non-steady state distribution, we also can obtain transient thermal clock. But the only point I need to mention is there is also a characteristic length. This length should be much smaller than the characteristic length is diffusion length. The diffusion length should be smaller. The diffusion length should be larger than the size of device. That is because the diffusion length is dependent on capacity, thermal conductivity, and mass density. So you can find we can use this length to measure if thermal clock can work or not. So in this case, for transient thermal clock, in general, I can say we can obtain transient thermal clock, but the transient thermal clock can work from what time to what time. In my point of view, we can use characteristic length to check the length, and then according to the length, we can determine the period of time, and then we can say after this time, the transient thermal clock is okay, or else it does not work. This is my answer. Thank you. I'm not sure, Professor Canoe, do you have some viewpoints about the question as mentioned by the previous audience? Okay.
Sorry, Sebastian, I don't hear you.
Okay, Sebastian, are you here? Okay.
Hello.
Okay. Hello.
You can hear me now? Yes. So no, you provided a very detailed and quite good answer to the question which was raised, and so if everyone feels now that she has no more questions to ask, I think we should thank again Professor Wang for this wonderful talk and really for the great progress he has made in this field of thermal metamaterials.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So, if I'm not mistaken, our next webinar speaker will be Professor Chiara Dairo in a week. Bogdan, you can confirm?
That's right, yes.
And so
next week.
Professor Dairo, I think, will talk about mechanical metamaterials and the like. So I hope that everyone enjoyed this webinar as much as I did, and I wish to see you in a week at the same time. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.